Just a very quick video with regard to the Nikon D850 and just using the one setup, or the one focal setup, to do basically everything. Everything from landscape, portrait, birds and wildlife, you name it. Now, this whole video is based on the fact that you're gonna have to go and see this video right here. Now, it's had over 85,000 views, so if you're not one of those 85,000 that have already seen it, you're gonna have to go and check out the video first, so this video makes a little bit more sense. Recently, I got a comment from Marius on that video, and he talked about, can he go from that type of setting with the bird and wildlife, and is there an easy way to flick it back over so he could do landscape photography by half depressing the shutter button? First of all, thank you very much for watching, Marius, and I appreciate your question. Can I suggest to most of you out there that have that same type of query that I don't use that half depress for focus on the shutter button when I'm doing landscape photography, or basically any type of photography actually. So using the settings from that other video, I'm going to show you how I apply them to a landscape photography situation. Now, first of all, with the D850, the old shutter has got a decent old clunk on it. I like to minimize that shutter shake, so I don't get any sort of, shake on my image. So I tend to use live view. So you just press on the back of the D850 here, turn it on, that helps. Live view, and then I've got my screen here. All I've got to do is touch on my screen. Now, one thing you've got to make sure on the screen, up in the top left here, make sure you've got Touch AF on. Another thing to make sure is, make sure that this little button over here is not in lock mode as well. So a lot of people have fallen for that. They couldn't work out why they weren't getting a focus point. Make sure that is not in that L mode. So very simply, I just touch where I want to focus. It gives me a green box. I have up the top here a shutter release set to the timer of anywhere from 2 to 5 seconds. In this case, I'm just using 2 seconds. I then press the shutter, 2 seconds, and my shot's been taken. Very, very simple, but see, you didn't hear a big clunk, did you? Well, the reason why is because when you put it into live view mode, the mirror is already up. So you won't get that clunk when you hit the shutter button. Now, another reason why I don't like to use the half depressed shutter button when I'm doing landscape photography, if you're using things like filters, I've got this Freewell versatile magnetic filter system on the front of the D850. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll just leave it up here for you to check out a little bit later on. You have to press that shutter button. I will pretty much guarantee your focus will start hunting because you've put a darker filter on, and especially things like ND filters, it'll become very dark and the focus won't know where to focus. So what I like to do is I would pre-focus my shot by just touching on the back LCD screen. Then I would add my filter, adjust my settings, then press the shutter button, 2-second timer release, no shutter shake, and you should get pretty much a perfect shot. Okay, so say you want to do landscape photography, but you don't want to use a tripod, you just want to do something handheld and look through the viewfinder. You can certainly do that still using those settings that I've already told you about in that other video. You simply use your single point autofocus that I've assigned to the PV button on the front, get your focus point, reposition, take your shot. So very easy. And that can be applied to other things like portrait photography. When you're doing things like astrophotography, you're normally focusing manually anyway. So realistically, the only things that you have to change when you're using those other settings that I told you about is things like ISO, your shutter speed, and your aperture. So other types of photography have all different types of settings. For example, when you're doing astrophotography, you'll be using a higher ISO. When you're doing something like portrait photography, you'll be using f-stops, something like f1.8 or f2.8. So those are the three things you really only have to worry about. You can still keep all those focus settings that I told you about. It just makes it much more convenient leaving that setup as is that you had for bird and wildlife photography, but just applying it to other types of photography. Well guys, that was just a very quick video and I hope that's helped you out there. You don't really need to change anything once you've got those focus settings in. That beautiful sunset is just about to get into position. I'm going to get this shot. Never stop creating, and I'll see you next time.